Our culture we treat failure as the opposite of success. And cliche or cheesy, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. Failure is right next to success. It is like parallel to it. We could have an entire hour episode just talking about my failures and my failed companies. I have a lot of them.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Boardroom Buzz, here with the Blue Collar Twins, Jeremy and Jason Julio. Today's guest is someone who's done a little bit of everything. Pest control operator, went to law school, built and scaled businesses, and is now building multiple companies while also helping others grow through his podcast and social media communities. This is going to be a fun episode. Allan Draper, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks guys. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So everyone in a pest control company listens to the Boardroom Buzz, Bug Bucks, Pest Control Millionaire. You hear Allan Draper. Take everyone back and tell us how you got into this industry.
So the original interest came because my brother was selling door-to-door pest control, and that's kind of how it started. He was really good at it. Like his very first summer. So he was selling for a company called Safeguard back then in Columbus, Ohio. Safeguard, Tom and Shandon were owners, and a guy named Aaron Allred. And Tom and Shandon are still involved in pest control. They own Insight Pest Control and Bandage Marketing. Just really great guys. And Brent, my brother, actually broke the rookie single day sales record back then. This is 2000. I think this is 2006.
Oh, wow.
No, this is a while ago. This is before Golden Door existed, like all that stuff. And he sold 17 as a rookie in one day. And it was right around that time. So he was really successful with it. And he called me. He's like, dude, this is kind of cool what we're doing out here. And I said,
where were you at your part of your life at that time?
So I was just finishing up my undergrad degree at BYU. So I had just graduated. He goes out there for the summer and he's like, hey, this is working. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to come out there. I'm going to be a technician, going to learn the operations side. And then we're going to start a pest control company together. And he had a successful.
In 2006, though, at that point, was like pest control booming at all? It was like kind of like, what was the industry like at that time?
I mean, there was kind of the talk about door-to-door sales. Solar wasn't really around. There was, some security, but no, I went to BYU. So back then, yeah. So it wasn't new. Guy, Lenny Gray had been around for several years, super successful. It wasn't like it is now, but it was unheard of. Like you had heard of door-to-door sales.
But you went to school to be an attorney. What was your undergrad?
Yeah. My undergrad was in psychology. And then Brent and I tried to start a company right around that time, 2006, 2007. We couldn't get along. We were undercapitalized, just not mature enough. He sticks with pest control and I end up going to law school.
And then, so you go to law school. I mean, you spend a lot of time, effort, money going to law school, and to say, hey, listen, I'm going to not go into this field and I'm going to roll the dice and start pest control company, which I actually already failed at.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think you just like put, a highlight on my personality, which is sometimes I don't know when to quit. And I think that was part of it, to be honest with you, subconsciously, where it was like, I could have started any business. Because I practiced law for a couple of years after law school. I could have started a law firm. And now, my law firm, we just celebrated, I think, our 4th year in business. So now I own a law firm, but it's a completely different scenario. And yeah, like I love the pest control industry. And so, but there was that a little bit in me where it was like, I tried, I failed. We didn't even get our license before we, pulled the plug. So that's a good point, man.
So what'd that look like? So 2006, you and your brother, is that 2006 at that time?
Is this 2006 or 2007? So somewhere around there. Well, we can't get along. We're like, fine, we're not doing it together. I moved to Idaho. I'm living with my younger sister. She's 5 years younger than me. I'm living in her spare bedroom and I try to start my own pest control company, just me. And I couldn't do it, man. I mean, I could have, but it didn't work out. I didn't have that dog in me yet. And so then I went to work for a bank for a few years before going to law school.
You know what's cool about it? I think listening to these stories and for our listeners,
beat me to it. Go ahead.
that's all right. Is that, I mean, you have tremendous success at this point with Proof and all the other things that you've done, but you've had failure, right? So I think is that where you?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, you failed, you didn't quit, but people are failing every single day. So doing a podcast and people hearing this story goes such a long way for our listeners.
You know what's funny is I was listening to a podcast this past week and super successful people, household names, and they were talking about how our culture, our society, we're all goofed up on failure. Our culture we treat failure as the opposite of success, and cliche or cheesy, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. Failure is right next to success. It is like parallel to it, because like we could have an entire hour episode just talking about my failures and my failed companies. I have a lot of them. We're talking about pest control. I didn't even lose really any money there. I lost some time, like kind of embarrassing back then. You want to talk about some like lost money? Man, I have a contact marketing company that completely fell on its face and I lost several $100,000 in a matter of months. Like everyone, like they look at me and they're like, how'd you do it? Like, what's the secret? It's like, well, which secret are we talking about? Are we talking about all the crap that I learned from the failures? Is it I realized that the way to succeed is to fail super fast and not let it affect your opinion of yourself. Man, I went through it. I have demons in my head that a lot of people don't understand. I had somebody ask me the other day, they're like, hey, when do those stop? At what level of success do you stop doubting yourself? And I said, actually, all that happens is it speeds up. So now it's like, oh, Allan, you got lucky. You're not going to be able to replicate it. You're going to lose it all. And so that, the failures, those are what gave me the confidence, because it's like, hey, I recognize this. I've been here before. I know what not to do. So if I have a message like for the pest controllers out there, whatever, and it can be a small failure. It can be, I printed the wrong phone number on my flyers. I've done that, but it's like that you're figuring out what success is. That's the key. And we don't talk about it enough.
Allan's giving his son's football team a pump-up speech.
Oh my gosh, those kids, they don't even know what they got coming, and we have practice in about 5 hours.
That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, with failures, right? You hope you learn from those mistakes, right? And all the mistakes that we make in life, we learn from those mistakes. But then it also takes a certain person to go back at it, right? So is it being resilient, or is it grit? What is the word that you would say is tied to that?
I honestly think it's this like crazy mix of confidence, self-belief, and humility, because the difference between turning a failure into a success or building upon the failure so it eventually becomes some form of success, and a failure being like, okay, this is the part of the road where I stop. The difference is recognizing that you have some sort of control and there's something that you can do about it. Most people, we blame other people. We blame the market. We blame our circumstances. We blame our partners. We blame the marketing company, whatever else. But the people that are able to say, hey, like when I said I said we were undercapitalized. We weren't mature enough. We couldn't get along. That's me, man.
That's everything. I had a conversation with someone today real quick about that same exact thing. And it was about an experience that I went through, and someone I look up to, he's like, you're asking the wrong. He said, go look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself that question, right? You have to ask yourself those questions and be honest with yourself, right? A lot of people aren't honest with themselves, or they're looking to point and blame other people versus taking ownership and then learning from them.
Yeah. There's a great book out there. I'm sure you know what it is. It's Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it's all about. The thing is, in business, it's kind of weird because there's a lot of things we don't control. We're in a service industry, and, I have a bunch of 20, 30, 40-year-old somethings driving vehicles all around 7 different states right now. And I do not control them. And so what we have to do as business owners is isolate what we control. And it's either if one of those guys screws up or one of those gals screws up, who hired? Somebody that I hired or whatever, right? So it's recognized. And what that does, a lot of people think when you make excuses that you're defending yourself, you're not. It's when you own something, you're saying like, hey, like I can do something about this. And regardless of what it's telling the outside world, when you're alone with your thoughts and you're like, man, I publicly took responsibility and I, personally take responsibility for that. That means I can do something about it. So when you say, oh, it was them, it was that person or that scenario or whatever, what you're really saying is that's out of my hands.
Great point. So back to when you and your brother Brent started, was it Proof at this point?
So back in 2006, 7, that was Freedom Pest Control. Freedom.
And then how long did that last before? And then tell us how you got to Proof.
So never got off the ground. So then fast forward 7 years, we launch Proof. We start putting it together in 2014. Our first sales, March 17th, 2015, Detroit, Michigan.
So what did you do differently?
Uh,
With a different business plan, a different mindset?
There's the cliche that you burned your boats. I quit my legal job in downtown Phoenix. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-month-old. I packed everything I owned into those shipping bins and I drove my family to Detroit. In the legal field, that is career suicide because I'll always have that hole. Like, hey, what happened when you quit that job in Phoenix? And I could always lie, make something up, change my resume. But the truth was I was leaving the legal field probably for the rest of my life. And so it was that because there were some hard days. There were some dark days. There were days where I quit, where I rode, my brother was living in our living room in this 2-bedroom apartment in Detroit, outside Detroit. And I'd call my wife because I didn't have a car because we drove the service truck to the office. I'm like, hey, I'm done. Come pick me up. That happened that first year in 2015. That happened 5 or 6 times where it was like, I'm done. And then I get home and I'm like, man, I gotta move back to Detroit and tell everybody I'm a failure, So that helped a ton. We were more mature. I definitely had more confidence going through law school, passing the bar exam, more problem solving skills. So I needed those moments where it was like, hey, I'm going to quit, right? I'm going to quit for a few hours. I go home, reset, and then the next morning I was back at it. So it was a combination of things that made it different, but it helped that I made actually quitting, not just like saying I was going to quit, but actually quitting. It made it a lot more difficult. That maturity and growing up and that pressure, man, those 2 little kids and my wife and people closest to me, it was different this time around.
Was your wife supportive?
I always tell the story, and I just told it at BugBucksCon, a week and a half ago in Provo. I kicked off BugBucksCon, and so I came home one day from work, and Brent and I, my brother and I, were talking about possibly starting a company, and I had to recruit him because he started GreenX. And at that point, his partner had bought him out, and then he was kind of doing his own. And he knew what it was like. I didn't get a sense of what starting it was like, even though I tried to get one off the ground in Idaho. And so he was a little tougher. And so I had to convince him to do that. But we were talking for a couple of months, nothing, public. And then one day I come home from work, I had my hour and a half commute from downtown from my law office. And I, walk in like, hey, Jules, I've something I need to tell you. And, she gets this nervous look in her eyes. And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about quitting my law job. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, I'm thinking about a certain pest control company. And she's like, okay. And then I say, and I think we're going to pack up the family and everything we own and move to Detroit to do it. And she looks me straight in the eyes and says, let's do it. So game changer.
So why did Detroit? I'm sorry. Did you grow up in Detroit? Why Detroit?
We just really liked the market. No one was really knocking doors there. That was going to be a big aspect of our startup. And we thought it was an undervalued market back then. It wasn't long after the big 3 bailout and, Detroit, the city going bankrupt and all these things. And we did some research and we thought that it was undervalued in terms of a market, not a ton of door-to-door competition, not a ton of pest control competition there back in those days. And we went for it. To be honest with you, one of the best moves we made. And we were choosing between a few different markets. And man, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
So you're in Detroit. What kind of jumps the business over there?
The door-to-door helped, right? That's like immediate revenue. My brother had that experience. We had recruited a small team. And so our first year we started March 17th with our first revenue. And then in that summer with what we put on, that first year we did about 650,000 in revenue in that truncated year. So I don't know what that equates to CVA, but we probably had $900,000 in recurring revenue on the books. But it was really back then, it was door to door. We were doing some other things, but that was, what really got us going.
It was a lot cheaper too at the time.
Yes. And contracted door to door rates were a lot lower back then than they are now. So
starting, did you have to get capital from anywhere?
no, so we each put in 50 grand. So we started Proof with 100 grand, which 100 grand back then is a lot more than it is now, but it's still not a lot. And just bootstrapped it. One of the best things that we ever did, and kind of without knowing, and it's a little bit because, I'm a little tight fisted. I don't like spending a lot of money unnecessarily, was that we didn't pay ourselves very much. So that first year we paid ourselves $24,000, and obviously living off savings. And even the next year, I think we increased a few $1,000s, but those first few years, even though I think we were profitable year one, even though we tried not to be, we tried to accelerate some depreciation and things, but we were definitely profitable year two, but we were just pumping everything back into the business.
So how big did you grow Proof?
So, we still have it.
Okay.
So yeah, so Proof's still around. I have quite a few partners involved. Brent's my main partner. And then I have a couple of equity partners that own branches. And so I can speak in generalities. I don't mind sharing specifics, but I have partners that I owe duties to that aren't so much in the public eye as I am. But we have, what do I have? I have 120 something trucks on the road. So decent sized company, to be honest with you. It's probably not as big as a lot of people think, just because of the podcast and how much I am, on social media and stuff, but it's a good sized company and we do pretty well with it.
What made you decide to pull partners in?
It was the door to door. It was we need help with that. We needed somebody connecting with that younger audience on college campuses, not looking like a creepy 40-year-old. Because I started Proof, I was 35. And so we wanted kind of that fresh young blood, and that helped. So
it's like the best way to go about it. Like if you were to consult somebody in business, in pest control or service-based industry, would you consult them and say, find a person and give them some kind of skin in the game?
No, I would probably advise against it unless the scenario like just fits really well. It's a tough model. It has been very successful for the two equity partners that we have. They'll do very well, but there's a huge hump that you have to get over to get to the other side, because these guys, they're normally really good at sales and recruiting. And our model was, when they first came on board, it would be a huge pay cut. They were making less in commissions. They didn't have overrides. And so they really had to see the vision. But my partners now will, especially when we work toward an exit someday, that they will be much better off than had they just knocked doors.
At what point in the business did you kind of completely remove yourself? At what point were you like, all right, now I could start doing, because, from the outside looking in, and from my perspective, I read somewhere you're part of 28 different businesses. You got so many different things going on. You got bug bucks, you got lizard. At what point were you able to step away from the pest control and, start building on these other entrepreneurial type businesses?
So, this is probably 2017 or something. So I'm not too far in. And part of it was, I always built Proof a little differently because I didn't have any specialized knowledge in pest control. I didn't knock doors really. I didn't really grow up through the operation side as a technician, branch manager, or even sales rep or anything like that. And so I was always replacing myself. Now I was Proof very first technician, our very first HR person, everything, right? Brett was doing door to door. And so I just always replaced myself. And so in 2017, we hired, technically he was the COO, a guy named David Gilmer, super talented guy with Pest Daily now. And technically he was the COO, but we got to the point where he was basically running the show. And so it was just a matter of time for me because I replaced myself. And so I was still involved back then, and I'm still involved now. Not really the day to day, but like, we hired a new CEO a year and a half ago. I was involved in that process, so there's still, some of those things, some of those meetings involved with, but it just came down to getting somebody in that seat that was, to be frank, better than I was. or am.
What about your brother? What's his role?
So he's still over the door to door. We do have a vice president of sales that leads the door to door guys, helps with recruiting and placement, all that. So, but he's still involved somewhat in that aspect, and then kind of high level decisions also.
Do you think that going in business with each other made your relationship stronger?
Oh man, I think so. We're still kind of in the middle of it, and we're both hot headed. We can both say exactly what we're thinking. And so we've learned how to control that a little bit. Those early days were tough because of that, but I think so. I think we're closer. We definitely, I mean, we talk every day or text or something. We have quite a few different businesses together. So a lot of the businesses that I'm involved with, he's involved with, but it's not like this left to right linear progression with our relationship. If you zoom in, there's some peaks and valleys there for sure.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much typical of a brother relationship. You're in business together, and a partnership, or there's nothing that's, like you said, linear, or like there's always going to be ups and downs. I tell people regularly, like we talk about, I love my wife, but like it's a roller coaster. You're gonna have your good days, your bad days. It's just life.
Yeah,
right? But
very similar.
yeah,
Yep, for sure.
So, Allan, when did you realize you had something with?
Oh man,
When was that like aha, like, holy shit, this is really working. We're going to take this business and we're going to grow it to 120 trucks, wherever you're at.
man, that first year, it always felt like the smallest things were, the end. It was funny. Like some of our mistakes, I'm like, well, it was a good try. And then I realized that those things weren't even a big deal. But, I'm not a, hey, we've arrived type of guy, which drives some people around me crazy. But even if you ask me today, like, hey, is proof in the clear? No, man. No, it's not. Like, actually, we have a bigger target on our back. And I'm trying to come to terms with that because I know that's crazy, but especially because I just got my tax bill yesterday. But, I think we grew so fast. So year one, we had a branch in Detroit. Year two, we had a branch in Boston. And so that always kept me on my toes. Man, it was probably 4 or 5 years in. It was when the financials really started to turn and we started to have some really profitable branches. So probably 4 or 5 years where it's like, okay, like I can take a deep breath. I think we're going to be okay. We can continue to grow without too much turbulence, but it took me a while, man.
And when did you realize that I can convert what I've learned growing this pest control business into other industries?
Just when I kind of went for it. So in 2000, what was my first outside business? It was probably 2018 or 19. I started doing some angel investing and advising. And so it was around that time. I'd been around Peru 4 or 5 years. It was right around that same time where we started to make a few bucks and some of that pressure started to ease. And, I think for me, because I wasn't really involved in the technical aspects, it was like, well, I can do this with their business because I don't even know that much about pest control. And now I know a lot more than I did when I started, but I started a software company, didn't fare too well. We're still kind of in limbo with that. A digital marketing agency, a law firm, a product company that pitched a Shark Tank. I'm involved with credit monitoring, like these businesses that I have no technical knowledge of, but I looked at pest control and I'm like, hey, like I can hire people that know more than me. And so it was right around that time that I both Proof started to make a few bucks, and then I started to hand over the reins a little bit to somebody else.
So you mentioned, are you a goals type of guy? Do you have annual goals that you trying to hit and reach every year?
Yep. Big goals guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's important. So when you hit those goals, that's accomplishment. You accomplished something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you just reevaluate and then set bigger goals and just move forward.
Yeah. So for me, the goals aren't like they are for other. Some people are like, hey, when I make 10 million bucks, I'm getting a beach house and I'm going to lay on the beach all day. It's not like that for me. I use my goals they're not changing like my path or like what I do with my life. They're just mile markers. So they kind of help me keep focused, but like there's no real lever in my life that's going to change what I do day to day, unless there was some type of family issue, right? Like in terms of work, like it's not like I have companies do really well. I have companies fail. It's like, I just keep doing what I'm doing it. And it's because I just love it. I love building companies and working with cool people.
So I was just about to ask, what do you love about it? The people are, but what is it
You just like, is it to prove to yourself that you can do it? Is it's not the monetary thing, right? Is it because you like to build for other people? What is it?
I think it's a bunch of little stuff. So, and I do have other hobbies. I love football. I love coaching kids. I spend a lot of time doing that. I love golf. I love sports. I love to travel. I love smoking meat. I love, spending time up in our cabin, but I love building businesses in kind of the same way. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not like a crazy big spender, but I do love making money because of what it means. It's signifying like, hey, like I created something from nothing with a bunch of awesome people, right? And they probably did more of the lift than I did. But now people give us money in exchange for a product or service. So I love that aspect. I love to create. And like we look at the world and chaos and destruction, that's default. Like if time goes on, right, there's this idea of entropy. And that means as time goes on, things get dusty, disorganized, clutter, they fall apart. It takes some type of energy to reverse that. And I just love being in that process. I love big ideas and I love doing stuff that's like kind of makes me a little nervous and uncomfortable and just proving to myself that like I can either figure it out or find somebody that can.
Do you stress?
I was just talking. So I have a property manager that helps us with some of our properties. I had a meeting with her an hour ago and I could tell she was super stressed. And I was like, hey, how often do you move your body? Like, not even for like how it looked, but just, and she's like, never. I'm like, just after our call, go 5 minutes, walk around your neighborhood. And I think I'm in like the 90th percentile with risk, how I can handle risk. But risk is like a personal thing, right? So there's some things that like safety of my technicians, that stuff, when there's a car accident, I don't care about the money, those issues. So I'm good with some financial risk. Oh man, I'll go back to living in that 2-bedroom apartment in suburbs of Detroit. Honestly, like that I'm not super worried about. It's the other type. What about the other people? If they get injured, do they provide for their families, stuff like that? But financially and with businesses, now I'll roll the dice. I've done it once. I'll do it again.
And that comes with the confidence, right?
For sure.
You mentioned moving. Are you a big fitness guy? I see flexing. I think
I just,
flexing.
I'm trying to keep up with you guys. I saw some vacation pictures and you guys are next level, but no, I go to the gym, 5 times a week and super active with my kids in their sports and stuff. So for sure.
Matt Rogers said he has bigger biceps than you, by the way.
He probably does. That dude, he's like, we continue to push each other and I've seen some recent photos. Yeah, he's in good shape.
So talk about Matt Rogers real quick. He said you're a big Disney guy, huh? You didn't mention about Disney yet.
Disney?
He did.
No, he said, what did he say? He did say something about Disney because I obviously listened to the show. I can't remember what it was. I think he was making fun of the first logo, the first lizard logo, and said it was something like
Mickey Mouse or something.
Or maybe he was talking about how he and I fight. He swears a lot more than I do. And it's like he's fighting with Mickey Mouse. I can't remember something like that. Yeah, but no, Matt's like, that's a specific example of everything that I'm talking about, where I love to do things outside my comfort zone, digital marketing. I love to do cool things with cool people. And every once in a while you get lucky. It's a matter of, it's like the shotgun effect. Guys, you know how many partners I have that have failed, partnerships that failed? 20. Seriously. And those, you talk about risk, that's where it's tough to sleep at night. I have a couple right now where I'm trying to figure out dissolution agreements and things. But with Matt, oh man, he jumped right in.
But you started Lizard, right? And then he came across your lap somehow or some way, and we're like, all right, you're better than me at this. I'm going to take the hat off and give it to you, kind of thing, right?
Yep. So I think we were probably a year in or something. But in terms of what we had accomplished to where we are now, we were still in our infancy. So that year, we probably created more problems than we solved. So while he wasn't there from the beginning, we always call it Lizard 2.0. And he was there at the beginning of that, which really is what matters.
So, I mean, you have a lot going on, right? How do you manage your time with all the things and all the different responsibilities and then have time for yourself to go to the gym, for your family, for whatever, all the other hobbies that you have? How do you make time for all that?
So right now I probably average 45, 50 hours a week working. So not a ton, like just above full time. I have really good people. So Lizard, for example, I just had a meeting with them regarding a new website for Bug Bucks. And I was like any other client because I trust those guys. And so I put people around me that I trust. And then I just go from high level problem solving to problem solving. Right now, I spend 40 hours a week on Bug Bucks. I'm like all in on it. We just had Bug Bucks Con. We're rebuilding the website. We're changing our program. We're working with partners. So
Talk about that. What is Bug Bucks? Tell listeners who don't know what Bug Bucks is.
yeah, so we're in this process of like evolving. But in 2020, I created a Facebook group. Back then it was called Start and Grow Your Pest Control Company. And I started a corresponding podcast. And the idea, it was just a hobby. Like I had no idea it was going to become a business. And back then it was, I felt disconnected because of COVID. I was actually super scared about proofs during COVID. Didn't have anybody to talk to about it.
You're pushing a lot of content out then too, right?
I was. So yeah, releasing weekly episodes, not the level that we're at now. Now we're, our Bug Bucks crew, I don't know, there's days that there are 30 posts. There are tens of thousands of impressions. We have a weekly podcast and I'm active on Instagram. We have a school group. We're like all over the place. But back then it was like, hey, I'm just trying to connect pest control owners that don't have an outlet. And there were some other groups and the other groups were doing great. It wasn't about that. It was something different. And then it evolved into Bug Bucks. But now, so we have Bug Bucks Plus, which is a community that has a bunch of courses, but it's more than that. It's about connecting pest control owners with other pest control owners, with resources to solve problems for their business, with connecting them with potential partners, vendors, we call partners. And so we're a media company where we advertise on behalf of our partners. We have the Bug Buck Plus platform, and which is a monthly subscription. And then we also do an annual Bug Bucks Con, and where we just connect partners. And it was awesome. This last one that we did, we do it so differently. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's kind of like Pest World. No, it's not. Like a couple of the events we did, we had networking. So I spent about 3 hours assigning people to tables based off of their 2025 growth revenue. So I wanted people at each stage. So under $100,000, under $500,000, under $1 million. And then we had 20 million plus at each table or gal. And then we just had them answer questions. And so that's kind of what Bug Bucks is in a nutshell, but it's, there's a lot going on there.
Did you have a lot of people at the convention?
So yeah, so we had 90 pest control owners and officers, and then we had about 40 to 50 partners.
I think that's cool how you structure those tables. I saw you post something about that, which I thought was very interesting because I remember, if I was a $100,000, let's say 500,000 annual revenue pest control operator, and I got the opportunity to sit next to someone that's doing 2 million, but then also at the same time, there's 5 million, 15, 20, whatever it was. Now you have people from all stages who are willing to then, I guess you had breakout sessions or questions, and then, you could converse with each other. That's very valuable.
What's funny is that, so we've been surveying people and getting feedback, so that not to toot our own horn, but to figure out how to do it better. And with Bug Bucks and with Bug Bucks Con and with Bug Bucks Plus, I feel like we're doing stuff that I don't know if it's ever been done. And we're just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Some of the stuff didn't work, like the schedule wasn't awesome. It was too short. It was too compact. Next year, we're doing Bug Bucks Con 2.5 days in San Diego, February 24th through the 26th. We're going to spread it out a little bit, and we're going to double down on the networking. We're going to have a full day, not all at the same time, but a full day of people helping each other solve their problems. One of the issues was I didn't ask for this platform, right? Like I built it, and I feel very blessed, but I have so many people coming to me, and I am not a coach. Like I do not have the time. It is not something I'm interested in doing. There's nothing wrong with it. People need mentors and they need coaches. And so this past year, I was like, what can we do at Bug Bucks Con to help fill that gap? Because I get DM'd 10 times a day. Hey, Allan, I have an issue with my CEO or my branch manager or this technician. And it's like, there's people out there that know what I know. There's people out there that know a lot more than I know. And so some of the feedback we're getting, like this one guy called me, he's a really sharp guy named Tony Carter in Florida, really sharp guy. He's had a successful exit as a really successful company, would be a great guest if you haven't had him. And this guy was like, hey, I know you put me by Tony on accident, but he's he's changing what I'm doing right now with my company. And I started laughing and I'm like, dude, I did not put you next to him on accident. Like I spent hours poring over the table seating, and Tony, he's the type of guy that would have been able to like help anyone, but there was something like magical about that connection that's helping this guy change his pest control company.
Who was that for you guys? Did you have somebody that you had a mentor or someone that you looked up to or reach out to when you were in the beginning phases of your business or middle phases or currently?
A lot of my mentors, they're my mentors from afar. They're authors, and there's podcasts that I listen to. Like my mentors a lot of times are people that don't know that I exist, but there's also people that, that I lean on. I lean on my partners a lot. And man, that's such a good question, because I have people in my like personal life that I look to. One of my strengths is, back when I first started going to the gym, there were these huge guys, and I'm like, dang man, I'm never going to be like that. They were my mentors, right? Even though they didn't know I existed. And then I would look and I would see like, oh, they have super skinny legs, right? And I'm not making fun of them. My point was I learned to take the entire package. And so I learned how to compare myself to others in a non-negative way. And what I did is I look at that guy now and I'd say, if that guy can do it, I can do it. And so I was really good at figuring out how to glean information from people that I surrounded myself with without like there being this formal, okay, now I'm going to mentor you meeting, right? And my network, like there's so many people that come to mind, Paul Gianamore, so many people that I could list that they probably don't even know. They're probably like, wait, I mentor that guy? Oh, heck yeah, you did. Like it just didn't come across that way.
Yeah, I think that's great. I tell people a lot, like I see with my eyes, my ears a lot. I'll either read or listen or watch and just see how everyone else is doing certain things. And then I'll like kind of, dissect it and kind of make it my own. But, I appreciate what you're saying in terms of like having these mentors, but they don't know that they're actually, mentoring you from afar. That's pretty cool.
For sure.
So, and I know we kind of got a little bit distracted or pulled away from it, but your routine, what does your day-to-day look like? I know you said you work about 43 hours a week.
Yeah.
What do you work out in the morning? What's your day-to-day look like?
So during the school year, wake up, help my kids get ready for school, and then I drive with my wife to drop them off. And it's just, man, that's been really special. And we kind of fell into it. And sometimes I'm like, wait, why don't I just take him or you just take him? Because her and I, we don't have a ton of time to just talk. But anyway, so it kind of kills two birds. I get to spend some time talking with my kids on the way to school.
Important, man. I think that's incredible, right? Like having that time, because again, something important to talk about, because, a lot of our listeners may be in relationships and they don't make time for their significant other or time to communicate. So that's an important thing that
it's huge.
Time for, yeah.
It's huge. And it just became, it's weird because it started as hey, I want to spend more time with my kids because our mornings are crazy. I don't know how they get to school on time every morning, but they do. But we're like running around, stuff, freaking lunch lying around, like breakfast. But yeah, so I do that, come back. So I get back home at about 8, and then I'll go into my office. I have a morning routine. I have some spiritual things I do in the morning. I journal almost every day. I talk about the last day. I write about things that I'm thankful for. I've been writing in my journal. So behind me is a bookshelf. I have like 20 some, I used to write like with a pen, 20 some journals of just full, like started when I was super young. So I still journal a little bit, talk about my frustrations, things I'm scared of.
Let me go into those books, man.
Oh man. Yeah. And it's like such personal stuff like that, and I try to, the truth is I try to set that up so it's some positivity. The positivity doesn't come to us naturally. The problems do. Like the news, you turn the news on, it's not like, hey, 6 million people got to work safely today in their vehicles. It's the one car that didn't. And so I try to get some of that positivity in my life. I do some goals review. I'm going to go through and check where we are financially with companies. See if I see any high level red flags. I'm going to spend some time, 15 minutes going over my calendar for the day. Then I'm going to check my email. I'm going to email or text my executive assistant, ask her what she has going on. And then by that time I go to the gym. Me and my wife usually go together. I'll spend an hour and a half in that process. And then I'll have my first meeting at 11 o'clock my time, which is after I get home, shower, and then the days takes
Full day
off.
right there. Oh,
Yeah.
this is the beginning of the day.
Yeah. I mean, it gets interesting when the kids get home. So they get home from school. Actually, as soon as we hang up here, I have a niece in town and she has her kids with her. We're going to go to the trampoline park and go crazy. Let those boys just go crazy there. So I'm looking forward to that.
Do you do a good job at disconnecting? Like when you're with the family, the phone's away, or is it always accessible?
So I was fishing last year. I almost drowned. It's a crazy story. I was fishing a float tube. I fly fish and I dropped my phone. I had a decent sized fish. I'm not lying. And it like flopped and like knocked my phone in the water. And I didn't have my phone for a couple of days and I couldn't, it was over a week. And so Verizon was closed and it was awesome. It was awesome. And I don't realize that in my day to day because I can work from anywhere. I've worked from my home office for the last 8 years. So I do an okay job, but when I don't have my phone, I do a much better job.
And now with the whole bug bucks online, social media, it's like, it could be constant.
That's the thing is that I spend so much time on social media and 80% of that time is working, but it sucks you in. So I'll catch myself scrolling. I'm like, dude, I came here to reply to a bug bucks post.
Dude, you're a hawk on that thing, man. You call people out in a second.
A guy posted just yesterday. It got 1,300 views and and he asked about what he should do with this employee that said that his wife's grandma died and he was going to miss a week. And there was such bad advice in there, man. And I try not to call anyone out in particular. I don't want to make anybody feel bad, but they were telling him things that could get him in a lawsuit really quickly. And to be honest with you, when I first started Start and Grow Your Pest Control Company group back in 2020, I had a few goals, but one of them was making sure that there was an opposing perspective when somebody gave bad advice, where I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but my law firm practices labor and employment law. And I didn't want this guy that asked the question to be misled. And so I'll do it every once in a while. I try not to be rude about it, but I try to get the message across.
Yeah, I think it's been heard loud and clear.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it's too loud and clear, so I need to pull back.
So what are some of your personal and business goals that you have? I know you have a lot going on, and what are some of those long-term goals that you have?
Yeah, so I'm at this stage in my life where I'm thinking a lot about my legacy. One of my favorite sayings is the goal shouldn't be for you to live forever. It should be to create something that does. And so, with Bug Bucks right now, I'm locked in on that. One of my main goals is to be a little more than double our Bug Bucks con attendance. So we're looking to get 200 COs in San Diego next year, which I'm confident we'll get. That's a big goal for me to drive that connection. I produced a wealth course last year. It's called the Wealth Code. And I've been working a lot on that, helping people that are living paycheck to paycheck or blue collar business owners get over that hump. And so we're trying to get that off the ground this year. And we're building some social media behind that, some content behind that. So some goals with that. With Proof, we're looking to add 5 million to the top line. We're looking to increase our customer retention by 2%. We're looking to decrease our technician accidents by 5%. Some goals there. Yeah. Law firm, we're getting a new office, kind of moving on up. So some big goals there.
How many attorneys do you have in your law firm?
So I'm an attorney, but I don't count. So we have my two partners, 6 attorneys, and then we have some support staff. And
what type of law?
The 2 other partners are our law firms, Ernst, Brown, and Draper. So Ernst does a lot of like appellate work and advising on personal injury cases. And then the Brown in the name, he focuses on labor law and some litigation. And so we cover a few different areas.
What's RainHub? Is it Rain?
RanaHub is software. So we had built, it was a CRM. It was like a Field Routes competitor, and we never actually got it off the ground. We still have the code, and it probably mostly outdated now, but there's probably something in my future with some form of pest control software. I don't know, what that will be.
There's no such thing as a perfect software, right? So there's got to be some way to improve on it, right? So listen, Allan, you've been great, man. You've got such an interesting, cool story. And Jeremy, do you have anything else for Allan? No, I think crushed it. Yeah. And there's one thing that really comes off of you, and I think it's confidence. If you had to give an operator who may be lacking confidence, what would that advice be?
I think it would be just get perspective on your failures, because we beat ourselves so up. So, we're always beating ourselves up. We say stuff to ourselves and we think stuff that we would never say to another human, and get some of that positivity early in your day, because the negativity is going to come. People are going to come to you with a flat tire, customers pissed. Get some positivity, but put your failures in perspective. We've got to turn that around. So many times that first year I thought proof was over, and now I'm over 11 years in and just laughing at those mistakes I thought were final. So I think we need to attach some confidence to failures. That's where a lot of my confidence comes from, is like, hey, I took failure and I learned something from it. Confidence, like +2 or whatever, points you want to give yourself. But yeah, and I think the other part of it is you need to recognize what you're doing matters. We're in a blue collar industry. I like to say that on the sexiness scale, bug guys are just above the janitors, right? And at the top is like dudes in AI and shoot rockets to freaking Mars. But what you do matters. And it took me a while to realize that you solve a problem that people just don't want to deal with. They don't want to see a spider. They don't want to freaking, deal with ants in their kitchen. And that's on the pest control side, let alone on the legacy side. The companies that you're building for who's going to come behind, the companies you're building for the people that work for you. That is so important. And we don't give ourselves enough credit. So I think overcoming those failures, putting them in perspective, and realizing that what we do on a day-to-day basis is very, very important, helps me with some of that confidence.
How do you instill it in your kids?
I think it comes from them realizing mistakes aren't that big of a deal. My son at football practice the other day, he had an opportunity to guard. He plays defensive back. He plays safety. And the head coach of the varsity team, he's a 7th grader, says, hey, go cover this guy. I want to see this one-on-one matchup. And he told him that he had to go to the bathroom. And as we were driving home, I didn't hear any of this, by the way. I was with somebody else. He told me about this. And he's like, I told him I had to go to the bathroom because I didn't want this guy to just absolutely fry me. That's how he said it. And then me get made fun of at school. And so I had this really great conversation with him about putting perspective, putting our fears in perspective and allowing ourselves to fail. And it's hard. He's 13, right? Everything that matters to him is what people say about him, his friends. And so I think it's just to push him, encourage him through failure. Obviously cheer them on when they succeed. We don't get our confidence from that, I don't think. You see celebrities that are just disasters and they're addicted to all sorts of drugs and things. And they've been, celebrities since they were children. It's those failures where it's anybody can have a good mindset mentality when they're winning. But when you fall down, that's one of the reasons I love football so much. They get knocked down on their butts all day long. And it's what are you going to do now? And going through that, I think sports is a great way for kids to fail and learn something about themselves. And you can't just teach somebody confidence. It's not something that you put on a whiteboard.
But you have to put yourself in a situation where you're going to learn. So yeah, it's okay to fail as long as you learn from those failures. Right.
Exactly right.
Cool, man. Allan, listen, thanks so much, man. Looking forward to, continue to watch you grow and, open up 100 more businesses. Sorry about the Disney thing. I'm not sure where.
There was some Disney comment. I am 100% sure of it. No problem there.
You have a Mickey tattoo on your shoulder or something, right?
Yeah.
All right, brother.
I appreciate you coming on, man. Yeah.